Hello, everybody. It's Mr. Odom, and we are going to cover section 6.3, the percent proportion. So you're going to need your pencil, composition book, or notebook paper, and you will need a calculator for this lesson, and we'll use it quite a bit. The learning target for this video is I can use the percent proportion to find parts, wholes, and percents. And hopefully these are not foreign words to you, parts and wholes. It's something you talked about last year in sixth grade math. Some of you learned what parts and wholes were when you talked about fractions and ratios in sixth grade and fifth grade. So without further ado, the main idea in this chapter, the key idea, is that there's a formula that we're going to use. It's called the percent proportion. And each part of the formula has a name. So what's in red is called the part. The whole is the denominator that's underneath the part. And then the percent is basically on the right side of the equation. And the percent is written as a fraction. Okay. So in this example, 3 out of 4 is 75%. You can write it as 3 over 4, which means 3 out of 4 equals 75 over 100. There are some other, some of you might have seen other places. Instead of part, you'll see the word is over of equals the percent. Sometimes you'll see percent over 100. Okay, and we'll talk about what that means when we get to the problems below. So this note, pretty big, says in percent problems, the word of is usually followed by the whole. Okay, so that's why the denominator, we call it the whole, but sometimes we'll use the word of. And usually the part either comes before the word is or after the word is. It depends. So we're going to just practice solving some problems. We'll try to find the part, the whole, and the percent, and then we'll just use the percent proportion, which is just an equation. So we have to remember how to solve a proportion. We can use our multiplication property of equality, or we can use the cross products property. So don't forget what we did in chapter 5. All right, so let's get started. So for number 1, it says what percent of 5 is 3? Actually, let me make this bigger so that I can highlight stuff and you guys can see it. All right, so let's do this. Number 1, what percent? So it says what percent. So let me write this formula down. It's the part divided by the whole equals the percent written as a fraction. So up here, what percent? That has to be the P. That's what I'm looking for, right? The P over the 100. That's what I'm looking for. Of 5. So this is where of 5, that has to be my whole. And is 3. So is 3, that has to be my part. Because I've found the percent and the whole, so this has to be my part. So I can go ahead and fill these things in this formula. So the part is 3, the whole is 5, and the percent is what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we figure out what P is? Well, I can multiply both sides of the equation by 100 because that's how I can get the variable P all by itself. And then I can do some canceling. That's 1, that's 20. I put that over 1. And I have 20 times 3, which is 60. All right. So this is 60 over 100, and it says what percent, and I already know that 60 over 100 is 60%. Okay, so I have figured out a percent. All right, very good. Let's look at number 2. Let me get a different color. So number 2 says 25 is what percent of 20? So 25 is what percent of 20? So this is going to be my part because it's by the word is. All right. What percent? Pretty self-explanatory, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. That is going to be my P over 100. And then I have of 20, so this has to be my whole. The whole is by the word of. So I can just come down here and fill these things in now. Here's my formula. A over W. Let me fix that. A over W equals P over 100. All right. And A was 25 and W was 20. So I have 25 over 20 equals P over 100. So I'm looking for a percent. One of the things I could do is just in my calculator, what is 25 divided by 20? Go ahead and calculate that. You end up with 1.25 equals P over 100. Remember, this is representing my percent. So can you change 1.25 into a percent? It's a decimal. Change it into a percent. You can. Just move it 1, 2 places. So this is actually, the answer is 125%. So I go back up to the problem. 25 is 125% of 20. And notice 25 is actually bigger than 20. So it better be more than 100% of 20. And it turns out that it is. Okay. So let's look at number 3. We'll look at one more and then we'll let you guys practice. So here's number 3. So this one says, what number is? What number? And then there's that word is. So this has to be the part. And then my 80% right here, what is that? That's my percent. And then of 60, this is my whole. All right. So I just write down the formula. Part divided by whole equals the percent over 100. I already know my percent. 80% written as a fraction as 80 over 100. And I'm looking for the part, which is A, and then the whole is 60. And how can we figure out this answer? Well, I can go back and use the multiplication property of equality. Multiply this side by 60. Multiply this side by 60. That way this stuff cancels over here, and I'm just left with A equals, and A equals what? Well, I can do some canceling, or I can just multiply it in my calculator. So 80 times 60 is 4,800, and 4,800 divided by 100 is 48. All right, so what are we saying in number 3? We're saying that 48 is 80% of 60. So if you had a test and it was worth 60 points and you got 48 points, then you would have gotten a B minus, which is 80%. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to pause the video right now and I want you guys to work out problem number 4, problem number 5, and problem number 6. If you're watching this in Edpuzzle, the video will pause now. All right, so let's scroll down here and see what the answers are to problems 4, 5, and 6. So problem 4 said 10% of 40.5 is what number? So here's the word is. So we must be looking for the part. That's the variable we're looking for. Here's my whole, and this is my percent over 100, right? So I come down here, and the answer is 4.05. For number 5, 0.1% of what number? So this must be the whole I'm looking for. Here's the part. And this must be the percent over 100. I come down here and I did the work, and the answer is 4,000 using the percent proportion. And then number 6, 1/2 is, so 1/2 must be the part. This is my percent, and I'm looking for the whole again. And the answer to number 6 is 2. So 1/2 is 25% of 2. All right, let's look at a word problem. So this bar graph down here shows the strengths of tornadoes that occurred in Alabama in 2011. What percent of the tornadoes were EF1s? Okay, what percent were EF1s? Well, how many EF1s did they have? They had 58. And that has to represent the part. That's not all of the tornadoes they had, so it can't be the whole. We're looking for what percent, so we're looking for what is P over 100. And so what is W? So W, the whole, has to be the total number of tornadoes, which means I have to add all of those together. So the whole is, let's see, let me get my calculator. You get your calculator, let's do this. 36 plus 58 plus 29 plus 13 plus 7 plus 2. And I don't know about you, but I got 145. All right, 36 plus 58 plus 29 plus 13 plus 7 plus 2. All right, so there's my part, again, is 58. So my formula, part over whole equals percent over 100. And the part is 58. The whole is 145. And this equals my percent over 100. So my calculator, I figure out what is 58 divided by 145. And I end up with this, 0.4. And can you change 0.4 into a percent? How do you do that? That's right, I need to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So this is 40%. So 40% of the tornadoes were EF1s. Okay, so that is section 6.3, the percent proportion. Don't forget this formula. You will end up using it a little bit this chapter. All right, that's all I have. So you guys have a good day. It's Mr. Odom. I'm out.